And here is my colleague, British native anchor Jeff Moody, here with us in the studio again to talk more about the Brexit scenarios. Jeff, before we talk about the possibility of the second referendum, you mentioned that in your introduction just now. Tell me a little about the first one back in 2016, because I still have in my memory of the very big slogan of take back control. So from whom and from what?
These are very good questions.
Do you think that the British people were aware of what they were fighting for?
Well, you know, we went into that campaign not really caring. The British people didn't really mind one way or the other. Europe has been an issue that the politicians have squabbled about for decades, but the person on the street really didn't have much of an opinion. But as time went on in that campaign, suddenly everybody did. Suddenly everybody became an expert on Europe, everybody had an opinion, and those opinions were more and more polarised. The language that was used, the rhetoric, was extremely divisive. As you say, take back control of the country, take back control of our borders. And the other team would be saying, from who? What are you talking about? We've got control of our borders, we've got control of our sovereignty. So it became two sets of people arguing over fundamental issues of what it means, what sovereignty means to the Brits, what immigration means to the Brits, what it means to be British. And families were torn apart. My family, I still struggle to get on with my brother at the moment because, you know, he voted one way and I voted the other, and we can't find much common ground to actually try and make our peace with it. And then in the midst of all this, near the end of the campaign, a British Member of Parliament was murdered, brutally murdered, by, you know, and I'm not going to obviously link her death to any particular side, but it was the hostility and the atmosphere of what was happening at the time.
The situation was going extreme. Then, do you think, how likely do you think the second referendum would be happening, and what difference would it make? Do you think it will narrow the gap?
Very interesting. Yes, I think it's getting more and more likely as the only sensible option.
As a Brit, do you expect that to be happening?
As a Brit, I would like it to happen, and I think it's the right thing to happen. But it does seriously damage British democracy. It seriously damages the trust that the British have with their politicians. Because, you know, you can't say to the British people, oh, what do you want to do about this? Take their decision. And then a little bit later say, oh, do you really want to do that? Do you want to have another go at changing your mind? You know, it fundamentally undermines the democratic process, which we are so proud of. It's what us Brits, you know, think is one of the great things about being British, our parliamentary process. So, yes, I think it will happen, because I think it's the only way out of this mess. But I think the consequences are for us as a nation and for our political structure is something that we're going to be feeling for generations to come, far worse than the consequences of Brexit itself.
And Theresa May's fate is quite interesting here. We just heard Jeremy Corbyn said in public very strongly that it's time for a new government. So do you think her position and future power will be in jeopardy?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I mean, she's a dead man walking. She's on borrowed time. She knows she's on borrowed time. She's admitted that she's on borrowed time. It's really just a matter of when she leaves now, how long she can cling on.
What will that lead to?
Well, it will either lead to a new Conservative Prime Minister. Boris Johnson is waiting in the wings. He's famous for his really rough haircut. He's had a haircut, which means one thing. He's preparing for power. So he's standing in the wings, waiting with his eye keenly on the throne. But don't underestimate Jeremy Corbyn, the opposition leader, who has got an awful lot of support from younger people in the country. And if there's a general election, there is a good chance that he will be the new Prime Minister. We'll have a total change of power in the UK.
A big difference he will make.
he'll make a huge difference. I mean, whether he makes a difference about Brexit, I don't know, because the Labour Party is as divided about Brexit as anybody else is. This isn't a partisan thing. You can't say, oh, the Conservatives are for Brexit, Labour are against Brexit. It's a total mishmash. So, as Brexit stands, he'll have a go at negotiating a better deal. Whether he'll manage it, I don't know. I very severely doubt it. I don't suppose anybody could manage negotiate a good deal. But the difference will be the other things, the things that Theresa May hasn't really had time to think about in the UK. Things like employment, things like the health service, things like the economy, things like housing, transportation, all of these big issues that are extremely important in the UK at the moment. She's been too busy in Brussels. She's not been looking at the smaller picture. And
Brexit will not solve all those internal problems in Britain.
No, it won't. Of course it won't. But a change of government will put a different emphasis on it.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, my colleague Jeff Moody in the studio. Thank you very much for your insights. Very interesting.